you're presenting fine in front of me, but inside you're like on fire, like it can be dangerous, but it's about what are you doing now and what's going on now and how do I move you forward? Um, and a lot of that is really kind of this basic, what can we do now moving forward, right? So some people get trapped in the past about thinking about, childhood stuff and all of that, which is important, not in the weird Freudian way, but like in ways that we know now, like attachment issues and adverse childhood events, and those things are really important for the development of potentially issues down the road. And so some people want to attempt to kind of uncover that, right? And a lot of places don't run a trauma program, so ours isn't, at work isn't a specific trauma program. Like I'm technically not allowed to treat, right? Which we do anyways, but we don't take it head on. You know what I mean? Like we're not treating trauma, but we're treating the ancillaries. Like I can treat the anxiety around it, for instance, or the depression with it. Anyways, the bottom line is I'm saying that's all fine and good, what's happened in the past. Like it's good and it's helpful for me to know. Like that way, I say if we get in the weeds, then I know what weeds we're in, and I can get us out of them. Versus if I don't know what triggers you, we get in there. I don't understand that, you're presenting fine in front of me, but inside you're like on fire, like it can be dangerous, but it's about what are you doing now and what's going on now and how do I move you forward? Right? Like
Right.
how do I get you unstuck? And that's really powerful. But the CBT model, especially if my bias is, and we talk about it a lot on here, but my bias really is on the emotional end of things. That's what I think is missing, is this discussion and understanding of what we are experiencing emotionally. So you add that to the cognitive behavioral approach, and like you have bounds of success. But for people who are really stuck, like with super rigid kind of beliefs around these things, it's a lot of work to show them that there is another way,
Oh, I bet. I'm sure you'd have to like break them right down and then bring them back up, right? Because, like had discussed in previous episodes, it's the whole rewiring of the brain. If you're so
Yeah.
negative for so long, everything's it's setting itself in stone, and then
Yeah.
kind of
And
building that wall.
the analogy that I like to use is like if you imagine you're in the middle of an ocean with a life jacket, that life jacket is this rigidity and thinking, this, identity, what's going on, this narrow tunnel vision around it. All of those pieces are keeping you afloat. It's your survival mechanism, right? And so the sharks are nipping you, but they're staying afloat. This is what's working, right? So you're still getting hurt, but you're still surviving. The problem with trying to rip that life jacket off, which is what some, if we are really shitty at our job, we would do as therapists, is just take that vest off. It's like, well, why don't I give you another flotation device? And
Slowly work you over
yeah,
to it.
you choose to see, like, will it keep me up? Can I get over to it? Do I like it? All of those things. So,
Yeah.
it's constantly through that. And that's why I like to think a lot of the times it's like being a bit of a ninja, like literally just kind of slowly getting in there, and really drumming it out of them, which is super powerful, really cool to see happen. But it's like, if I know, like, you say something like, I think that I either do it right or I don't do it at all, right? It's like, we know that this is a cognitive distortion, that if we use that for all of our stuff, we get into a world of shit. It's called black and white thinking, right? All or nothing thinking. And I say, okay, well, that's really interesting. But I'm wondering, is there other things that you've done that aren't perfect, but just good enough, right? And then you can drum something up, right? It's like, okay, so it seems like what you're saying is, for whatever reason, particularly this one thing must be this way.
Right.
And then you're like, well, I guess. And it's like, well, so how come over here that's okay and over here it's not? And you start to show them that their own rule is broken often, but they don't notice it.
Right.
Right.
So
And
it's like you're piece by piecing it, so that way for them it's not extremely noticeable, and they can
Yeah,
slowly bring themselves out of the shell to try and work
yeah.
into that,
It's like Inception.
right?
It's not necessarily that I have the right, because I don't. I don't have the, and that's what people want. They come to therapy wanting advice, and I'm like, if you want advice, go to counseling.
That's it.
Like, if you want therapy, then it's about exploration and curiosity, and it's fucking hard. Like, it's just hard work because you're doing it,
Yeah,
and I'm going to challenge you. So, core belief work is one of my favorite things to do, and it's like the hardest, most like soul crunching sometimes work. But that's really about the exploration about what is the engine that powers our anxieties and our depression,
and
those
it's
types
it's
of
about
things.
them and what they're
Oh
doing.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
because I always hear people talking about therapists, like, well, my therapist says I should try this, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, and I try and get like, the back end story, how you talk about it, like,
yeah,
okay, well, what did you tell the therapist that made them recommend that?
yeah,
Because you can't just go to a therapist and then be like, oh yeah, this is what you need to try.
yeah, yeah,
Your process is like, we're figuring out what's going on with you right here and now,
yeah.
because we've discussed this previous episodes. There's not a one fix all, right?
No, no, but and so that self discovery is like Inception. You know what I
Right.
mean? It's like this idea that we've planted is really coming from you, and if it comes from you, you're gonna do it, right? You're gonna, well, sure, this is a great idea. This is my idea, so I'm gonna do it. I've had some of the coolest things, in session really are around, you nail this core belief. So like, and there's plenty of them. And I think that there's like a sheet out there somewhere. It kind of has like the main six or something like that. But like an I'm unlovable is a core common one, or, I'm worthless is one with depression often, right? That is a negative core belief that we come across. And so the idea around that is to uh, identify it, because sometimes we don't know that it's at play, right? So we have like the core beliefs, then we have intermediary beliefs, right? The if then statements that we say to ourselves, and then we have all of these automatic thoughts, right? So at the top of it is just like right off the hop, what do I think about a situation? That automatic thought, right? So if I screw up, the automatic thought, I'm stupid, right?
Yeah.
That's automatically pops in my head. Then I have this intermediary belief system, which goes something like, if I screw this up, I'm stupid, right? So if this doesn't go well, then it's my fault, right? So these if then statements. And then in the core belief is this, I'm worthless. And so people understand the automatic, but they don't always hit the intermediary, and they certainly often don't find the little low ones in the bottom. So our job is to seep through it. It's like going through an onion. You know what I mean? And that is such powerful work, because once you recognize that the whole way I've been looking at the world, right? Myself, others, of the world, the whole way I've been doing this is based on a belief that I hold, which often comes with zero evidence, right? I have zero evidence for it, right? I'm worthless, yet I'm married with somebody who loves me and supports me. We're not talking about bad relationships here. We're talking about loving, caring ones. I'm worthless, except for I have children who love me very much and I love them. I'm worthless, but I'm successful at my job. I'm worthless, but, right, I'm worthless, but, and so there we go. Okay, so what's the evidence for that? Like, let's drum it up. Show me what you have, right? And so they'll talk about experiences, and they'll talk about this and that. And, I hesitate to say 100% of the time, because I'm sure that there are some times where this won't really true, but I can't think of them now. But a good chunk of the time, I would say more than half of the time, those evidences are other beliefs, right? So it's like other lenses and filters. It's like constantly filtering coffee.
Right.
Each time I pull one and there's just another one there filtering it out even more, and then I pull that one and it's like, but I'm not getting the pure. I'm not just getting water to my mug, and so we challenge those. And when we hit that spot where they're just like, I have no evidence for this, it's like the light bulb,
Yeah. And
you know?
they realized, like, wow, I've in a way, I've been wrong this whole time.
And it's not even about being wrong, right? And this is where more of that kind of dance comes in, because, it's not that you're wrong. It's that the right for you at the time has changed, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
What has been right for you, what has worked for you, is now changing. It's changed. So it's not that you're wrong. It's just that we've got a belief system that has helped us for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years. is no longer doing that. It's now attracting sharks while I float instead of expelling them. And so now I have this new way of thinking, which suggests that, you know what, sometimes I feel like I'm not doing my best, but that doesn't make me worthless. Maybe that's a new core belief. Or, you know, I'm lovable, right? Or you know, I'm worthwhile, or I have whatever we replace it with, and then we find evidence for that, and that's easy, right? It's really easy to do. And so then it's just you know, the last part is really about giving choice, you know, so then it becomes, so now you have this knowledge, right? Now you can choose, right?
Help
You
them
get
make
to,
the decision that works for them.
well, not even help them make the decision. We just give them the options,
Oh, okay.
right? So if you think about coming through the door for me, often, you know, through systematic reasons, of course, because the wait lists are astronomical, but also just through the psychological reasons, is your tunnel visioned and stuck? Are you know, most people don't come to see us proactively, though they should, right? But
Yeah.
most don't. And most would be screened out if they tried, right? But so you're coming in stack, and I have 18 weeks with you where I'm going to just try to show you, not unstuck you, but just show you, you have options and you have power. And that's the whole program, and that's the CBT approach, and it's pretty fantastic, you know.
See,
And
what I'm getting from this too is, and this might be something that like I'll ask you a question after this, but I kind of see you as a life coach in the sense that
that's
you're very
hurtful.
niche down.
That's
Well,
very
that
hurtful.
I mean, like a very well educated one, but you know what I mean. Like you break down the problem areas, you find out what's going on, you help them make the changes needed to live that changed, happier life that you know,
Mhm.
and bring them out of their funk and get them back on track. And like you said, coming in proactively, people coming in to see you to maintain what they've got or to improve what they've got or to prevent what's going to come.
Mhm.
And that's something where the people that get screened out, can they go see other people per se that you know that might not be educated but could help them make certain changes that would actually improve? That is something that you would recommend if they can't, you know, make it into somebody like yourself to actually get in and get that therapy that they need.
Well, I would say that like, you know, most programs, like most publicly funded programs that you're not eligible for, there's another publicly funded program you could fall into, right? I think, you know, um, the way I see a huge stark difference between like a life coach versus a therapist in a lot of ways is the level of mental health that we're dealing with. You know, I think that a life coach could be really beneficial for somebody who has uh, maybe like paralysis by analysis or self-esteem issues that aren't stemmed by any deep-rooted, deep-seated, ongoing, you know, mild to moderate to chronic mental health reasons, right?
Right.
Now, I'm sure that there's going to be plenty of life coaches who would tell me to go fuck off, and they help people all the time, and I would say that that's outside of their scope. So
But
let me
that's
know.
a certain level, right? And
Yeah,
I see what you're saying. Like it's an onion, and
yeah,
everybody gets scarred to a certain point.
yeah. Well, and it's not even like it's not even that scarredness, right? But like, you know, when I hear about someone going to life coach or whatever, they tend to be like successful people, right? And I'm biased, but they tend to be able to afford a life coach. I don't know of any publicly funded life coach. So already, if somebody's saying, you know, if they don't get into a program with me, I would say go private therapy then. Right, like if you're going to pay somebody, you know, 100 to 200 or more dollars an hour to do that. But what a life coach can do, which can be problematic, though I'm sure that they're careful about this, right, is that they can tell you what to do, right? Like, so they can say, you should do X, and you go do X, and maybe you have great results. I can't say that to you.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I can't, because even if I know, right? Have you seen It's Not About the Nail?
Nope, but I'm
Oh,
gonna write it down.
oh God. Okay, this is fantastic. You should put it up when you post this. I show this video to every course that I teach. But essentially, what it is if I think that I know exactly what your problem is, I can't say, uh, go do this because that'll solve your problem. if I do that and something goes wrong, like I'm on a lot of like it's just wrong on a lot of clinical reasons, right? Um, where like I can get torched. You know what I mean? Right? So I could say, I think you should just dump your girlfriend. Just, and you need to kick them out. And they could do that. But then I'm on the line because I've crossed that boundary between
Right.
therapy and advice giving.
Right.
Right?
So then, because I have seen some, and I'll call them health and wellness coaches now, that have kind of dived into the therapy end of it. They're obviously not certified, but they're certified more in the health and overall wellness. They're not considered life coaches, but health coaches. Is
Mm-hmm.
that something that would be good to pair with a therapist?
Mm-hmm. I think that there's a lot of good evidence to suggest that an approach that's holistic, and I don't mean foo-fooish fucking like incense and shit, but
No,
like
proper
holi-
nutrition,
that's right,
fitness,
that's right.
working with
Yeah,
you in that program. Like,
I think that would be phenomenal. I mean, ultimately, if you could get a program, this would never be publicly funded. But if you could get some sort of like private program where you walk through the door, maybe in a little bit of, I guess, in some ways, if I understood the model, a bit like what, um, oh, sorry, the frontline forward? What's his name?
Brian Stevens.
Yeah, a bit what he's doing with his program, right? He's got the gym, he's got a psychologist there, if I understand that correctly.
Yeah, he's got a
Um,
lot of different practices that are working together.
Yeah, and so you have so the golden standard is like what's called considered like the biopsychosocial approach. So when I meet with people, I'm looking for clues that I'm looking for clues of which of those three spheres are impacted. So if I'm looking at my biology, for instance, I'm looking at, do you have any chronic illnesses? Are you on any medications? Um, what's going on? Do you have a broken leg? Do you have any kind of, all kinds of biologically driven issues that may come into play?
Right.
Um, in a lot of them, right? Like if I look at fibromyalgia or I look at like IBS is a common one to see, especially with anxiety, all kinds of stuff. So that falls under biology, right? And so then I would be looking at, and this is out of my scope, but I'd be saying something like maybe you should go speak to your doctor if you haven't already about looking at what we can do for those things. And then you have the social aspect, which again, like Johan Hari's big on this, and I think to a lot of extent he's right about the connection and being connected to a community of some sort of some kind, but it needs to be, well, it doesn't even need to be, but really, I'd be focused on a healthy community of some sort, right? Like if you're looking for community, you're missing it. For instance, I don't think joining a cult is exactly a healthy move to find one, right?
Yeah.
But if you do, that's your choice, and I'm not going to stop you. Right? But finding that community and satisfying that social need, which again we'll see is really difficult if I have depression, because isolation, withdrawal, all of that, right? I don't want to be a burden. I don't want to bring people down. People don't like me anyways, all of those types of things. And anxiety can bring on depression by saying I'm too, people think I'll weird. What if I say the wrong thing? What if I don't know what to do? What if I have a panic attack? So I withdraw, right? And back away. And so then I'm looking at, so what are you doing socially, right? But that falls into my sphere of things that we would discuss and talk about. But the last one, obviously, is the psychological, and this is the wheelhouse for which I'm most comfortable in, and that's kind of the brunt of our work. So finding, a connection between nutrition, exercise, and psychology, along with all of the other biological needs like medications if you need them or managing other illnesses, is all crucial to your recovery.
So with that, then obviously you're not allowed to make, like try and push for decisions, and you're trying to work from within them out. But that's something that I'm seeing pop up a lot more. People are mentioning health and wellness coaches, and they're saying, oh, they've helped me with this, they've helped me with that, and I believe they can, right? Like if it's done properly, you can definitely fix a lot of things. Again, it's on like the outer layers. It's not the deeper stuff that you have to work through,
Hmm.
in your head. And being able to pair them up, I feel like any kind of combination that you can get that's just going to push you closer to the goal
Hmm.
is best, right? And the way that Brian Stevens kind of got it going on, he's bringing all that into one location, and now
Yeah.
he's created a community that you don't feel like a burden because he's inviting you in to be
Yeah.
there to get that treatment, to be taken care of, and find the therapists and find the psychologists and get access to a counselor and take care of your body and take care of your nutrition.
Yeah.
And he's putting it all into one, and I think that's an awesome idea.
It's
Anything that you
brilliant.
can do to kind of pile things together, right?
It's brilliant, and we should have him on.
I, I actually have invited him.
Yeah, I mean, I think out of all of the programs I've heard about, and this, and like I owe nothing to him, and he owes nothing to me. But of all of the programs I've heard about starting up, I was the most excited about that one.
Yeah.
I think that somebody who is really hurting, walking through the door, finding the camaraderie in the gym that you can develop, right? But also with that holistic approach, where not only can I get like my sweat on, but I'll have yoga and I can get that mind body connection uh, reconnected, and then I can go talk to a psychologist, right?
And there's
And then
people there dealing with the same things that you are.
that's right. You have that camaraderie in that. So I think the model itself is brilliant. I mean, I'm really strict, like really significantly biased towards physical fitness and the impact on mental health, of course. But which is one of the reasons why I think it was they just had their grand opening, and which I thought was surprising. But
On my birthday,
yeah,
I
obviously
was
it's
supposed to be there.
it's he must have been open for a while, because I
Yeah.
remember it was like 3 years ago now. I was at a conference where he spoke at, and they were looking to open it, but
Well, they got a hold of me almost a full year ago now. They
mhm,
want to sell my coffee there, so like I'm in partnership with them. True Hero shout out.
great.
They
Yeah.
yeah, like I've met
Shameless
with
plug.
no doubt, eh? But I've met with Brian and
Yeah,
I've met with his PR rep Lori, and like that's he's brought in I've got your back 911. So like he's
yeah,
bringing in all the other communities to this one location. So like it's super cool, and he's been operating now for 2 months. I think his doors have been open, and then he just did his grand opening now, accepting all his memberships and everything like that. But he's been going for, I mean, they've been building for a year and a half, two
yeah,
years.
yeah. At least 2 years, I
Yeah,
think. Right?
like
Like I think that conference was in 2017. I think.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
anyways,
Oh,
I
I'll
mean,
invite him on. We'll see what he says.
I
Like
when I found out it opened, I was pumped on that. I thought that was really great. But it speaks to that biopsychosocial approach, right? It speaks to that gold standard.